All right, I think we're here. Is everybody here? Am I here? Can you all hear me? I hope so. Let's see here. Just trying to get all my devices. All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Gabriel. Loud and clear. Awesome. All right, so guys, welcome to the first webinar for the Commercial Claims Advocate. I'm really happy that you guys could make it. Super excited. Please excuse any mistakes, any pitfalls, any disasters that may happen. This is our first time. I do promise you that we will only get better. My goal here is, thank you, Juan. Thanks for joining. My goal here is just to basically honestly just to basically educate you guys. So like I said, if it doesn't come out that good, it's really not our biggest concern right now. I think the biggest concern would obviously be to make sure that you guys are getting something out of it. That's first and foremost. So if you give me a second, I just need to make sure we do this little share screen that we practiced the other day. Hopefully it goes okay. Hold on a second. In the meantime, while I'm trying to set this up, if you guys could please go and answer that poll question. Just want to know how long you guys have been a public adjuster. It'd be nice to just know. It'd be nice to just know, yeah, how long you guys been doing this. What kind of fans we got here. What kind of people we have. All right, let's go here. Claims webinar. We're gonna share this one. Okay, and all right. Give me 1 second. We're almost there. Like I said, excuse the hiccups. All right, I think we're full screen. Can I get a confirmation if we're full screen from Dahlia or Milan? Perfect. All right. Thank you. If you see Dahlia below there, she's going to help you answer any questions. She works for us here at the Commercial Claims Advocate, Key Biscayne Claim Adjusters, and she'll be able to help answer some questions if I'm not able to. And I'll also be answering myself. You'll see there me answering some as well. So basically, yeah, here it is. Like I said, this is the first time that we do this. So thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it. It's we're very excited about doing this. So let's get right into it, right? So why am I doing this? Well, the reason why I'm doing this is basically, I'm guessing for a lot of you guys already have done a webinar before. But if you failed at finding a steady flow of good referrals, or if you're having trouble negotiating with the insurance company, or you just have trouble with the overall understanding of the insurance claim game, that's what I like to call it. Well, I want to tell you that I've been there before. Okay, I've totally been there before. And I remember like it was yesterday for some reason. And when I first got into this business, I didn't know the first thing about insurance. I didn't know the first thing about insurance claims. I didn't know the first thing about construction. I guess I just didn't know the first thing about much of anything. I came in with zero experience. So if you're concerned about being embarrassed out in the field, like at an initial inspection, and you're just concerned about doing an appraisal because you're worried at what you're going to say or what you're going to know or what you're not going to know, or if you're just concerned that you won't be able to satisfy your client, well, I can tell you that I've been there too. I didn't know the first thing about construction, and I had to basically fake it till I make it, if you guys know what that means, through countless amounts of inspections, re-inspections, and appraisals. Also, since most of my first claims, they came from friends and family, I know how that can be, right? I know how referrals from friends and family, where they're judging every decision and every outcome that you make and that happens throughout the claims process. And there's like an added pressure to succeed there, right? I know, because a lot of those first referrals you're getting from friends and family, and those suck, right? And those aren't the best referrals that you can get. So, I'm going to try to help you get some referrals that aren't just your friends. Now, the insurance companies, right? What I want you guys to understand is the insurance companies and their affiliates and their adjusters, they want to make us look like we're the bad guys. Not all. I will be clear with that. When I go out, I meet some adjusters, and they're nice. They're obviously nice people, and it's fun negotiating, and it turns out okay. But I know you guys, a lot of you guys just starting out, you see and you read a lot of things, and you have clients asking you, or people like, it's like an us versus them type thing. Well, I want you to know that we're not the bad guys. All right, we're not the ones that's dragging out the claims process. We're not the ones that are raising insurance rates. They want us to believe that we're not needed, also, that we're just like not important. Well, they also want us to believe that the policyholders do this. They could do this all themselves, right? That the policyholders know how to read an insurance policy, that the policyholders know what's covered and what's not covered, and that the policyholders know how to put together an estimate. And of course, the policyholders, they could just negotiate, and they could negotiate a claim, and they could do whatever's expected. Obviously, you guys and I know that's simply not true. That's exactly what they want you to believe. Okay. The insurance companies want you to believe this because they don't benefit from you or from I succeeding. They want to make us believe that we're not important. They know that if you succeed, there's more money that they have to pay out on claims, and it makes them look like they're the bad guys, and they don't want to look like the bad guys. So they try to make us look like the bad guys. Well, I'm here to tell you that because we are one. All right. We are all together in this. And it's the reason why I started this channel, the webinar, the podcast coming soon, the blog that we're going to have, and the kick ass website that's going to come out pretty soon. I'm doing this because, like I said, we're all here and we're all in this together. And I want you to achieve all of the things that I have, plus more. I know you have a dream to change the game. I know you want to change the industry, and I know you want to change the world and do what's best for the policyholder. And I want to show you how to do it. So I want you to know that my goal here, my number one goal for the beginners, my number one goal is I want you to learn about the most difficult thing in this industry, finding the work. Okay. In my opinion, that is not only the most important thing, but it's the most difficult thing when you're first starting out, finding the work. I want you to also, you're going to learn how to build relationships with the right people to make sure you're not just getting referrals, but you're getting quality referrals on a consistent basis. For the more experienced adjusters on here, I want you to get your claims paid large and fast, okay? I've developed some unique strategies over the years that's almost guarantees that I'll have my claims paid and almost equal value to my estimate in under a month, and Dahlia can attest to that. She's seen it. She helps me with these claims, and she's, helps me file them and stuff like that, and she's seen it. We're able to get these claims paid very, very fast. Goal number 2 for this webinar, and just for all that we're doing here, because this is like an introduction to everything here. It's an opportunity to learn from all of my failures and my mistakes that I've made over the past 12 years of my experience. It's also an opportunity for you to have someone to look for advice and to answer any and all questions that you have in order to reach your goals. These courses that we're going to eventually do, these podcasts, the webinars, the videos, they're all going to help you achieve continued success in negotiations, claim settlement, new and repeated referrals, build great relationships, and most of all, achieve financial freedom. So I'd like to just quickly get into my story. And in regards to financial freedom, I've been doing this for 12 years, and it hasn't all been smooth. But I want to tell you guys that I've come to a point in 12 years where I've been able to do all kinds of traveling. I've done anything. I did 2 months with my wife and I. We backpacked 2 months in Southeast Asia. We went to Vietnam. We went to Thailand. We went to Singapore. We went to Cambodia. We did that for 2 months. Later on, a couple years later, we did 3 months across South America. We did all of Chile. We did Argentina. We did Bolivia. We did Mexico. And frankly, it was amazing that I was able to. First time she was in school, she graduated, so she had to leave school, have no job for a while. She had to quit her job because she was on a transition. So she had to quit her job for a while just to do that kind of trip, all while I still had my job because I work for myself, and I was able to afford to be able to do something like that. Now, I'm not saying for you guys to go pick up your bags and start traveling, because if you're not signing claims, you're not making money. But once you start to really get rolling in this business and the referrals start coming in, and if you're able to start and start your own company or be partners with someone else in a company, and you can have others work under you, well, frankly, I mean, the sky's the limit. And I want to tell you that, like I said, I've been there before. The big moment of truth time for me was when I was a broke college student. And I had already graduated college, and I was teaching tennis full time. I was just a tennis instructor, teaching kids in the evening, teaching ladies in the mornings. And I didn't know what to do with my life. I was a sports management major. My dream was to become a sports agent, but they had told me that I had to go to law school in order to become a sports agent. And I tried. I took the LSAT, but I hope some of you are with me here where school was just not for me. Thank God I got a college degree, but frankly, I was just never good at school. So when I did terrible on the LSAT, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life anymore. And I started teaching this public adjuster. And he told me, hey, he was coming for 2 private lessons in the morning and bringing his kids for 2 private lessons in the evening. And he was there for every single one at $70 a pop. So I'm like, where is it that you're getting the money to afford these lessons and the time to have the lessons. And he told me it was a public adjuster. I had no idea what a public adjuster was. I know you guys are always trying to define what a public adjuster is. Well, at the time, I didn't know what one was. And I came across this website. It was some kind of blog that compared a sports agent to a public adjuster, because what we do is we represent our client and we negotiate on their behalf with the insurance company, and you try to get them top dollar. It's just like when you have an athlete and you're negotiating on their behalf with the team, with the football team or whatever it is, to try to get them top dollar. So when I saw that, that's it. I was sold. And I was ready to go. And I thought public adjusting was going to be great. And that's sort of how I've always treated it, where my client is my number one priority. No matter how many clients I have, whether it's 1 or 100, whenever they call, whenever they need you for something, and whenever you're representing them with the insurance company, you always have to defend them tooth and nail and get them whatever that they deserve. Now, I know you guys might not have an interest in being a sports agent, but the point was that I was looking to get out of the daily grind. Okay, I was teaching tennis, and then I worked for State Farm, working a 9 to 5, which was in a cubicle. I needed to get out of that grind, and I wanted to be able not just to get out of the grind, but to have enough money not to worry anymore. That was my thing, was having financial freedom and having the time. So having enough money to not have to worry about it and enough time to spend it and enjoy it. And frankly, that's where I have gotten to today, and it's pretty exciting. And I want all of you guys to sort of get there too. So let's get right to it, right? Let's get right to the webinar. So this is what it's called. It's the first claims advocate webinar. That's what it's going to be called. This is number 1. It's going to be how to grow your public adjusting business fast without getting shut down by prospective clients. I want you to grow big. I want you to grow fast. And I want you to be comfortable even now, even right after you finish this webinar, that you're okay with speaking to a client about their insurance claim and what needs to be done in order for you to be successful, or they to be successful throughout the claims process. So what are these were my 3 biggest fears, but also, if some of you guys remember, we sent out some questions and some of your biggest concerns or biggest complaints that you might have. And here's where everybody gets stuck sometimes. And your 3 biggest fears is, where will I find the work? To me, that was always number 1. Do I know enough to be successful? Which means I know all you guys did was took a course, you did an apprenticeship, you took a test, and it seems like a lot, because I know it was very difficult to do because I had to do it myself. I did a year of apprenticeship actually back then. But it's still not enough, right? You don't learn until you really start to get out in the field. And, a big question that you ask yourself is, do I know enough to be successful? Well, I'm going to try to teach you guys just some of the basics, okay? Just strictly basics. We only have about 45 minutes to an hour here, which, by the way, we're going to open for questions the last 15 minutes. So leave your questions if you have any below. I'll be glad to answer them. And do I know enough to be successful? I'm going to teach you some of the basics here, and a lot of the stuff that we do, it's going to basically try to teach you guys enough so that you feel confident when you walk into a client's house. You feel confident when you go into an initial inspection with that adjuster or appraisal. I know there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of experienced guys out there and girls, and you want to make sure that you at least pretend like you know what you're talking about. And then, how can I convince a potential client that I'm valuable? One of the questions I remember asking myself was, what's the point in hiring me? I remember saying, was there a point in hiring me? Because, if they could just file the claim themselves, why don't they just do it themselves? I'm going to teach you guys some stuff that you could tell your clients. You could basically, it's like a sales pitch. It is what it is, but you need to make them realize why you're valuable and why you're important. So what we're going to talk about is basically my 3 secrets to success, okay? If we could figure out together these 3 things right here, we're going to be successful. So again, we'll go back to number 1 is finding the work. So we're going to figure out how to start receiving referrals immediately without having to spend any money on advertising or marketing. Number 2 is the insurance basics. So I'm going to just show how you could show potential clients and insurance adjusters that you have the knowledge and skills necessary to process and negotiate a claim successfully. And last but not least, we're going to run through a sales pitch, okay? And how to convince a potential client you have what it takes to get their claim paid fast for its maximum amount. For all of you who are on this right now, I see there's 59 of you. Awesome. Super cool. Thank you, guys. You're going to receive my 30-second elevator pitch. So basically, that's like it's sort of like a sales pitch, but in 30 seconds, you will be able to educate the person you're talking to, differentiate yourself from the pack, and motivate them to find you work. So in 30 seconds, I'm going to teach you guys how to do that too. So let's get into it, right? So secret number one, finding the work. So how to start receiving referrals immediately without having to spend without having to spend much money on advertising or marketing. So let's get right into it. So here it is, right? What to do when you've got nothing to do. I know where you guys are at. I know there was a time where you're just twiddling your thumbs. You're not sure what to do. You've got this job. Nobody is calling you, or you're calling other adjusters in your team or in your company. They don't have any inspections, or they're not telling you there's any inspections. So you're just like there, you've got nothing to do. Well, I'm going to try to fill that time for you, because there's always something you can be doing. I understand how you could be frustrated also when you're waking up in the morning. You know, you should be waking up at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever. You want to wake up early to get your day started, but you don't really have anything planned. You don't have any appointments, and you don't have anywhere to go. So you end up trying to sleep in, or you're not supposed to be doing that. I've been there. Okay. So the first thing I did when I first became a public adjuster, numero uno, was I contacted everyone that I knew. Like I said before, your first clients are usually going to come from friends and family. So what I did, and this is a while ago. Things are a little bit different now with Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger. But I basically, get ready for this, and this is a fun experiment. Go through your phone A through Z. I want you to try that. And it's an interesting experience because, like I said, I want you to go through your phone and I want you to contact everyone. And when I mean everyone, I mean ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends, whoever that may be that you've talked to before, that you haven't talked to in a while. You want to call them. Okay. You want to call them and you want to touch base with them, and you want to just sort of like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? How's everything? Oh, really? That's really cool. Because then what are they going to do? They're going to ask you what you're doing. What's new with you? You tell them that you're a public adjuster. You tell them about looking for claims. You tell them, hey, if you know anybody that has water damage, or at least here in Florida, if you tell them, if you know anybody that's filed a claim within the last 3 years, we could reopen that claim and get them more money. I don't know how it is in other states. It used to be 5 years here, but now it's 3 years. It's a great little sales pitch that you could just tell people, hey, if you know anybody that's filed a claim within the last 3 years, I could reopen that claim and get you some money. So that's one way you do phone calls. Another one is obviously go through Facebook. I think back then, man, that must have been in 2008. It was like right when Facebook started. So there was no Facebook Messenger, but I know I would attack that like crazy right now. Facebook Messenger would be amazing because you could go through all of your friends list, which I'm guessing is probably even more or just different than the list of people you have on your phone. So that's going to be an additional group of people that you could contact, and just send them a personal message on Facebook. Go one by one and go through all those X's too, okay? It couldn't have been too bad how you ended it. This is business, right? So you just say, hey, just wanted to touch base. And if you do want to make the conversation short, then just leave a quick message just saying exactly what you do. I would prefer that you start a conversation, because all of this here that I'm going to tell you about, it's about building relationships with people. So it'd be better to open up a conversation, but at least, start hitting up everybody on Facebook and then Instagram as well. You might have a different group of friends that you have on Instagram. Start messaging people. Go through everyone. And I mean A through Z. Try to be as non-invasive as possible. Try to be as sincere as possible. Like you're, trying to start an actual conversation. You're you want to be genuinely curious about what they're doing with their lives today. And they're going to ask you right after, and then you could tell them. And then, like I said, do you know anybody that has water damage? Do you know anybody who has suffered any kind of damage from this hailstorm that we had here the other day? Do you know anybody who's filed a claim in the last 3 years? You might get a yes. And then maybe get their email address too, so maybe you could put them in kind of sort of like an email group. Number 2 is to look to your social networks and groups. So I put here, this is our groups that you're just already involved in. So for example, if you're in a salsa class, or you're in a gym membership, or local community center, or anything like that, soccer club, football club, whatever it is, those are people that you're connecting with usually on a weekly basis. I know we're having a little trouble here now with the corona. I'm going to help with that as well. Number 1 is great for the coronavirus right now because everybody's sitting in their home, not doing anything. But number 2 is another thing I always tell people to go into their social groups, anything that they meet up on a weekly basis. If you're in a fight gym or something like that, you get into conversations with people. And you want to do that. You want to tell them. One thing I'm going to tell you is to get business cards. I remember my first business cards were cutouts that I bought from Office Max. I'll never forget those things. They were the ugliest things. And I just put it into the printer, typed up Vince Perry, Key Biscayne Claim Adjuster's phone number, and I was giving that away until I got the good ones made. But whatever you can do to give somebody, just, I guess, a card just to let them know what you do. Number 3 is look to other social networks. So this to me right here is the end all be all. This is my favorite. I just moved from Miami to Tampa 2 years ago, for those who don't know. And I had to do all of this that I'm telling you. This is why I'm so interested in this and teaching you guys this, because I had to do this all over again. Anybody who's on here from Miami knows that once you leave Miami, it's like a different world. So when I moved to Tampa, it was like, I had to do this all over again and find new contacts, new referrals. So one thing that helped me a lot, because this is a new day and age, was Meetup. The Meetup app is fantastic, especially if you've got some interesting just things that you like to do in regards to just like hobbies and stuff. You go on Meetup, and I like photography. I joined a photography group. We meet once every couple of months, about twice every month or so, and we just shoot photography. But I get into the conversation of being a public adjuster, because everybody wants to know what you do for a living. But there's also good referral organizations. You could find, there's one in Tampa called RGA, Revenue Generating Association. But I guarantee what you do is you go to Meetup, and you go into the business portion of it, and there's just a ton of business groups that you have there, and that you could just join those groups or ask to join those groups, and they meet on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and you guys can get together and talk about business, literally. And there's a lot of good happy hours that you can go to and different social events. The point is, you got to get out of your shell. Okay, I will tell you, Meetup is very difficult. Why? Because you have to get out, you have to put on those shoes, put on those clothes, get in your car, and go to an event that you don't know anybody in. But at least you've got some common interests, because you're all looking to grow your business. So suck it up and do it. Go to that Meetup. And Sebastian, what's the name of that group? Just go to Meetup. You'll go to the Meetup app, and you'll create a profile. Try to do a nice profile. And you'll go into one of the business groups, and there'll be all kinds of groups. You put in your zip code, and it'll show you the groups that are in your area. So my favorite, okay, when joining a referral organization, which I think it's vital in our business. I know a lot of public adjusters that don't, because they're just, I guess, really good at networking. I'm personally actually not good at networking at all, but I've got a strong drive to succeed. So, I'm the kind of person where if I walk into a room, guys, I'm going to connect with one person. I'm going to speak to that person the entire time. But I don't know. That's just me. I'd rather connect and build a relationship with one person than have just little conversations all over the place. So BNI is one that's worked for me. And the reason why I talk about BNI here is because it's actually global. It's actually available all over the world and all over the country, especially. And there's different chapters all over. So what you do is you try to join a chapter. It's category exclusive, which means you cannot join a chapter that a public adjuster is already in. If there is no public adjuster in that chapter, you can go visit that chapter. You can take a look at it. If you like the vibe, if you like the energy, if you like the people, you join the organization. It ends up costing about, I think it's like $500 for the year. Don't quote me on this. So BNI people, if you are, don't quote me. $500 a year, about $20, $25 a week. It comes out to about $700 or so. It sounds like a lot, but when you think about how much you're going to make on a claim, that's only going to be 1 to 3 claims. You're done. And I guarantee you, I'll never forget what sold me on BNI was the first meeting that I visited 12 years ago. I got a referral. And you guys and I know both, a referral is like gold. It's like filet mignon, right? So get those referrals, and that's the way to do it. BNI is great. You could visit as many chapters as you want. I think 1 or 2 times max that you could visit a chapter. And it's great. You guys, B-Tones, you could Google search Business Networking International. That's what, look, Noble got his first claims from a BNI meeting. That's awesome. Yeah, it worked. It works great. Everybody is in the group to grow each other's business. Their motto, BNI's motto, is givers gain. The more you give, the more you gain. The more you give, the more you receive, which I think is fantastic. So I would strongly, I tell everybody that sends me messages to join BNI. I think it's a no-brainer. It really put me on the map as far as feeling good about my career. RGA is just one in Tampa. That one's nice because it's kind of nice. It's not category exclusive. It's not so strict on attendance like BNI is. And you can find different lunch meetings all over the place, which is great. So number 3 in this look to business referrals, you see join a legitimate networking organization, and you want to have one-to-ones with people. Again, this is a BNI thing, but one-to-ones are basically just one-to-one coffee meetings that you have with someone. I know that we have to be 6 feet apart nowadays, but there's no reason why when you're making all these phone calls, look, if I go back to number 1, contact everyone you know. When we're making all these phone calls, there's no reason why you guys can't schedule a time to go meet somewhere. I mean, I don't know, maybe at a parking lot or something, if you're able to do it. I know some of you guys are just starting out, it might be a little bit difficult, but you know, you could have a Zoom meeting, you know, but you want to have a one-to-one. Why? Because you want to get that personal attention from that person, and you want to help each other out. Remember, giver's gain is the overall life philosophy, and you want to be able to sort of help them, because you're meeting somebody who probably wants to grow their business as well. Well, help them grow their business, and they're going to in turn help you grow your business. But you want to schedule at least 2 of those where you're just meeting with somebody once or twice a week. And who are you meeting with? Well, strategic referrals. Strategic referrals. I hope you guys know what this is. There's a difference between a direct referral and a strategic referral. The way you are going to grow your business successfully is by meeting as many strategic referrals as possible and building relationships with strategic referrals. Okay. Who are our strategic referrals? Look at number 6. I sorry, skipped here. Your general contractors, your plumbers, your roofers, your water mitigation companies, people who are in the organization, people who are in the industry. Those are the people who are going out to claims. They're going out to people with water damage. If you meet a good plumber and he's able to refer you every time he goes out to fix a leak, that's technically a claim, because if it's causing some water damage, now you've got referrals coming in from a plumber. Again, though, it's all about building relationships with people. Here in Florida, we're not allowed to pay for referrals. So it really comes down to honesty and trust. And you want to be able to sort of, if you can, give a referral for a referral. So if a plumber does get you a referral, you're going to at least do your best to try to get them a referral. And if everybody understands the whole philosophy of that whole giver's game, there's another way of putting it, but I can't remember. But you know, they'll understand that if they give you 2 or 3 or 4 referrals, eventually it'll come around. What goes around comes around, I guess, something like that. So general contractors always work for me. A general contractor that believes in my industry has always worked for me, and they refer me a lot. They go into a house and they see water damage, and instead of charging them $50,000 to replace all their floors, they recommend they file a claim. And they should call Vince to help them with the claim to get them the money that they need to pay the general contractor. I could do a whole other webinar on that one. So strategic referrals are very important. If we go back to number 5 real quick, if you go on Meetup, guys, okay, you could find real estate and construction groups and construction organizations. I'm part of the Tampa Bay Real Estate Association, and I'm also part of the Tampa Bay Builders Association. I think that's what it's called. And the Tampa Bay Builders Association is just GCs that go and they meet. And I'm talking all kinds of GCs, not just house GCs, but commercial GCs as well. You know, if I get good in with just a handful of those guys, referrals will just start flowing in. And the real estate, I'm always looking to meet real estate investors. Real estate investors are great too. John, yeah, possibly other PAs as well. Real estate investors are great because they own more than one property, so higher chance of something happening. Or if you want a real estate investor, I always said that before he was president, my dream referral was like a Donald Trump. Why? Because he's a big-time commercial real estate investor, and he could, if you get in good with somebody like that, they've got buildings all over the state, all over the country, and they could refer you when those buildings get hurt. So network. I got 2 minutes here. I want to just get into the next one. One-to-one meetings are very important. Try to have 2 of those per week. Try to do 1 social event per week, like a happy hour or something like that. That's 3. And then you want to have at least 1 happy hour, like a business luncheon or something like that. Maybe not 1 per week, but maybe you could do 1 per month. The point is that when I started here in Tampa, my goal was actually not 4. It was 5. I wanted to just hit 5 networking acts per week. So automatically 1 was my BNI meeting. Then I'd have 2 one-to-ones. So that's 3. And then I'd try to just meet with some kind of person in real estate or something. That'd be 4. And then maybe I just hit up in a happy hour, like on a Friday, and that would be 5. And maybe there was 1 on Saturday too, but my goal was to hit 5 per week. That's it. I would check it off that day. What did I do today? Oh, I had a one-to-one with somebody, and I did a little happy hour with somebody. So that's 2 for the day. And the goal was 5 every week. Make that a goal, guys. Make that a weekly goal where you're hitting 5 networking acts per week. You're meeting 5 different people, or you're getting to know 5 different people, or you're just meeting in a group and talking about your business. 5 networking acts per week. Just try to do that. I promise you, your business will grow extremely fast. I mean, I did it here in Tampa. You know, I have the experience here, but that doesn't matter. That was just a selling point. My experience here in Tampa was just a selling point. You don't have to tell people how long you've been doing this. Just, you know, hit the 5 networking acts, and if they like you and you like them, you guys could really grow together. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so secret number 2, insurance basic. Let's get through some of these basics, okay? I just want you to teach you guys sort of just a little bit of the ins and outs here. So how to show potential clients and insurance adjusters that you have the knowledge and skills necessary to process and negotiate a claim successfully. If you just, that's all, just to make sure. I just want to teach you guys some of the basics. If you guys have been doing this for a while, I haven't looked at the poll in a while, but if you guys have been doing this for a long time, then, this might not be beneficial to you, but it might be. So possible scenarios. So the first thing you want to do, especially when you meet, if I explain what is, all right. So the first thing you want to do when you meet a client, and you want to just sort of show them that you know what you're talking about, you want to explain to the client, this is basically right here for the client, all the possible different scenarios that this claim can go. And you guys need to be aware of all the different routes that can go. First of all, you need to be able to define and explain what a public adjuster is, right? That's numero uno. You got to be able to just sort of know exactly what a public adjuster is, what we do. And obviously we hopefully know what we do is we represent the client to their best interest. We hold their hand throughout the entire claims process. We gather all the documentation. We get all the experts together to provide the documentation to the client, to the insurance company. We file the claim. We follow up with the claim. We negotiate on your behalf. There's a million things that we do that doesn't even involve getting you more money. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that we're very valuable. And I'm going to get into this later in our sales pitch, but we do a lot. I mean, it takes a lot of work to stay on track with the insurance company, to make sure that they pay and to make sure that they pay what they're supposed to pay. So one of the possible routes that it can go is a reinspection, right? It could easily go to a reinspection where if it's a plumbing loss and for some reason it's a plumbing loss that's maybe behind a wall and you've gotten a plumber out there to determine what it is, if the insurance adjuster goes out there and they're still not sure and they're not sold on the fact that your plumber knows what he's talking about, there may be a reinspection in the near future where they just do a reinspection with their own plumber. Or if there's a roof situation going on and you've already got the roofer out there, but they want to get their own roofer out there, they may do a reinspection for a roofer. Leak detection, I just did one last week. And maybe there's just another adjuster. Maybe that, your estimate's at $100,000 and their estimate's at 10. And they're like, why is this so separate? Let's send another adjuster out there to take a look at it. So understand, tell the client there could be reininspections that happen. Appraisal dispute. Okay, I've done a whole video on appraisals on the YouTube channel, on the Commercial Claims Show. Appraisals is basically what? If you're at 100,000 and the insurance company's at 10, you are more than okay with telling the insurance company to release that $10,000 check. That's known as an undisputed amount, at least here in Florida, and you have the right to dispute that. Which is known as the appraisal dispute. And basically, like I try to tell the clients, you're basically reappraising the entire claim. You're almost sort of starting from scratch. Now, more often than not, you're going to just basically get additional funds. But it is the definition of an appraisal is basically just sort of reappraising and reevaluating the entire claim. And we all know in an appraisal dispute, here in Florida, in most insurance companies, you're allowed to be an appraiser. In most other states, though, you have to name somebody else as an appraiser. Again, this can be a whole other webinar. I don't want to get into too much detail, but basically 2 appraisers meet out at the property. They take a look at the public adjuster initial estimate. They put their own estimate together for additional funds, and they have to submit our estimate. I'll get to that, David. The appraisal dispute is the 2 appraisers. They go out there and they try to figure out how much the claim is really worth. If they're able to agree, the claim is done. If they're not able to agree, you have to go to an umpire, okay, which is chosen beforehand, which I'll recommend to all of you new public adjusters. Again, another webinar I can do on its own. You want to go ahead to some of these associations. In Florida, we have FAPIA, and it's a really good place that you could meet other umpires, other appraisers that if you get along with, you want to have a list of umpires, of honest, trustworthy umpires that are fair and that can help you with the appraisal dispute. So that's pretty much it. Just understand, I know if you guys are a little scared to go to appraisal, because yes, once the appraisal and the umpire decides what it is done. And if they're not even close to your number, you're in trouble. It's happened to me. So, but don't worry, you have to be prepared. Make sure you have the right people around you. And the last way that the claim could go is litigation, okay? That is another way that it can go. If for some reason the claim gets denied, litigation. If they're not responding to you and they've taken longer than 90 days to respond or do anything, litigation. If it's just so far apart, if it really is 100,000, like 5,000, and there's just nothing you can do and you don't think that you can get it any further, litigation. It's just the way it is. I know Noble over here, I don't think he's got the same laws as we do in regards to litigation, but I know here in Florida, I mean, you could always file a lawsuit if there's a reason to file a lawsuit. But what I want you to tell the client, what I want them to understand is that the odds are extremely high that the claim will get paid one way or the other. And it may get paid in 1 month, 1 year or 2 years, depending on the way it goes, but the claim will get paid one way or the other, most likely. The life of a claim is sort of what we got into. So here's what I was getting into. I think it was Brian. No, was it? No, David. David, here's what you need to make sure when you're filing a claim. You want to have these 4 things, the 4 most important things to obtain when you before you even get to the inspection. So if you are signed up from the beginning and you go and you inspect a loss and there is a claim, there's a legitimate claim, and you feel that you've got a good case here, first thing you have to do is take photos. The next thing you have to do is you have to get some kind of expert documentation. If it's a plumbing loss, get a plumber out there. If it's a roof loss, get a roofer out there. Maybe you want to get leak detection out there because it's behind a wall. You don't want to start breaking anything. But whatever it is, you want to get some expert documentation on your side from somebody that you guys, for either you or the insured, is trying to get out there to sort of help your claim, to sort of justify the loss that you're talking about. It's going to help tremendously. Okay, it's very important. Number 3 is dry out mitigation. If it's a roof leak, get a tarp up there. Just make sure you can remove it for the inspection. If it's a water loss, get those machines out there. Get that dry out. That's why it's good to have a good dry out water mitigation team, or just any kind of mitigation to stop the damage from getting worse. Again, these are all policy conditions, right? You have the policy conditions where you have to gather the evidence as soon as possible, take the photos of the loss occurring, get the invoice, the expert documentation, get the dry out so it doesn't get any worse. And then the last thing is put that estimate together. Who pays for mitigation? The insurance company pays for mitigation more often than not. We've got some limits on there nowadays, but the insurance company does pay for mitigation. The last thing is also get your estimate together. Okay. Another webinar I could do on its own is putting together an estimate, which I think we're going to do one day. But basically you want to have your estimate already done. If you're new to this insurance claim game here, I suggest that you do somewhat learn how to put an estimate together. At least learn how to scope. Okay, scope is just basically taking measurements of the house, of the rooms, and writing down what's damaged: tile floor, baseboards, quarter round, drywall, so on and so forth. Feel free to leave some questions. I can help you guys with that later. But those are the 4 most important things. This was to you, David, that you want to have upon meeting the field adjuster. You want to have your photos, expert documentation, dry out mitigation, and you want to have your demand estimate. Then the next thing you do is you file the claim. You have the initial inspection with the insurance adjuster. Right off the bat, you should be able to email them everything, either the day before, the day of, or the day after, and follow up. Probably the most important thing is making sure that you follow up. Follow up with the insurance company. I prefer on a weekly basis. You can get away with once every 2 weeks because technically they're supposed to respond within 14 days. So if they don't respond by the second week, they're in trouble, and you could let them know in an email. But what following up does is basically it just keeps them on their toes because it gets forgotten. And I know a lot of times you end up in litigation, and some of you think that might be a good thing. In my opinion, and I love the attorneys, I love all you guys. If there's anybody on here, an attorney, I love you guys. But I prefer to leave it out of that, only if absolutely necessary, because it does drag out the process. It does make it a little long sometimes, but at the end of the day, we do need the attorneys sometimes, but I do try to avoid going through that. All right, so of course, I only leave 5 minutes for the sales pitch. Sorry, Milan. How to convince a potential client you have what it takes to get their claim paid fast and for its maximum amount. All right, so here's like a little sales pitch. I'm going to try to get through this with you guys rather quickly. So the first thing you want to do is say one positive statement that will resonate with a yes in their head. So my job, so here's like a statement that I would say: my job as a public adjuster is to look out for you. It is in my best interest to get you paid and get you paid fast. Guys, if you read anywhere that the public adjuster drags out the process, it could not be further from the truth. Because the longer this drags out, the longer it takes for us to get paid. So make sure that they understand that it is in our best interest to get you paid fast so that we get paid. And it's obviously our best interest to get you paid as much money as possible, because the more money you make, the more money I make. I say that every time to a new client. The more money you make, the more money I make. So I'm trying to get as much as possible. But even then, we're only going to get paid fast and for a lot of money if we gather the documentation and gather the evidence correctly, which is what we do. So if you get those 4 things in hand that I mentioned in the last slide, that's right there off the bat. You're cutting your claim cost. You're cutting your claim in half because you've already got everything that they need. So now you could start sending emails. I'm going to go back real quick. The 4 most important things. This is super important, guys, because now once you provide them with these 4 things, there's really nothing else that they need besides their initial inspection and maybe a recorded statement to settle your claim. So once you provide them with this before the initial inspection, you could start saying, hey, let's go. It's time to pay the claim. And that's why I'm able to get a lot of claims paid in under a month. Ask yes questions. This is a little sales technique that we discovered here, and I've used in the past, and it works great. So in the first few minutes of talking, you guys can be creative, but here are just some of the ones that I've used. So just asking yes questions to the client. Don't you want to be sure you will have enough money to build back your home? Do you want to make sure that you hire the right people for the job once the claim is paid? Aren't you concerned that the person sent to inspect your loss worked for the insurance company? Shouldn't you have your own adjuster that works for you and looking out for your best interests? If you notice, the answer to all those questions is yes. And when that word yes is resonating in their head, again, this is an old sales technique. Chances are when you ask them to sign the contract, they'll say yes. I like to explain everything that we did just in the last one over there. Explain everything from A to Z. Lay out the entire roadmap of the claim from the beginning until the very end, and every possible scenario and every turn that the claim could take. Why? I remember making the mistake when I was younger. When a claim would end up in litigation, I did not warn the client that there was a chance of litigation, and they would get a little bit upset. Recorded statement. It's never good to tell them, hey, you're going to do a recorded statement without having warned them in the beginning that a recorded statement might take place. So it's good to handle and lay everything out from A to Z. Not only does it prepare your client for the worst or whatever that may come, but it also shows your client that you know what you're talking about. So we'll go to that previous slide that we had. If you went there, of just all the different possible scenarios, re-inspections. I could have put recorded statements in there. Appraisals and litigation. Let them all know right off the bat. Like I said, it shows like you know what you're talking about, and it prepares them. Another advantage to hiring a public adjuster is no cost up front. It's strictly contingency based. So like I tell the client, you don't have to pay me anything. If you don't get paid anything, I don't get paid anything. And the more money you make, the more money I make. Voila. Right? So, I think that's a pretty good little sales pitch. I always told my friends when I used to be in sales a long, long time ago. And I remember I was always trying to tell people to buy something. In this business, you're not telling anybody to buy anything because we work off a percentage of what we basically get paid on our results, which is kind of cool. So, no cost up front. And then the age old fact that I hope most of you use. Here in Florida, we charge 20%. If it's a huge commercial loss, we may charge 10, or if it's like a fire claim, it could be between 10 and 15. I know there's other states that have some caps. I know there's some states that don't have any caps. Fact of the matter is, we charge 20% here in Florida. It's been proven that hiring a PA gets you 50 to 700% more. So what is the 20%? It's obsolete, right? So this is something that you could tell that it's a fact, that it's been written and it's been tested that hiring a PA, you end up getting anywhere from 50 to 700% more. That's why the insurance companies hate us. It's the fact. It's the nature of the beast. But tell the client that, and then that sort of dissolves the whole fact of charging 20%. And even if you're not sure if you're actually getting more, just understand, if you are doing the 4 things, you're gathering the evidence, you're putting the estimate together, you're getting the documentation, if you're doing all these things right there, I'm telling you, you're getting more off of that claim without you even knowing, I guess, because if you weren't there to gather all that stuff and it was just relied on for the client or the homeowner to do it and they didn't have everything ready, it's a different outcome. And it's also a different outcome, I'll tell you guys right now. When you go out to meet an insurance adjuster, the insurance adjuster treats the claim. They tend to subconsciously treat the claim a little bit differently when they're meeting an expert out there that's representing the homeowner. So they tend to try to avoid conflict and maybe try to hopefully pay a little bit more. So just understand, guys, by hiring you right off the bat, you're even on the front end, you're getting your client a little bit more money. And be aware and think up front. Like I said, mention everything that can go wrong. And I'm a person, I like to set low expectations. It's what I did when we started this webinar. I told you it was going to be crappy because it's our first one. So hopefully we exceeded those low expectations that I set for you on the front end. Well, I do the same thing with the claims. I just tell them, I try not to give them a dollar amount, which we'll get to next. Let me get to this one. So here's some common questions that I get. Again, I do like to set low expectations. So when they ask me, how long will this process take? Listen, it could take anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. You let them know right off the bat that it can take 2 years. If for some reason the claim goes south and it ends up in litigation, you're already protected. Again, low expectations. How will the check be written? Here, I think it's all over the country. Obviously, we know it's going to be written to the insured, to the mortgage company, and to the PA firm. And if I were you, right off the bat, give them the worst case scenario of the mortgage company. If you think it's going to hurt your sale, just let them know at least that the mortgage company will be on the check, and they may require them to send the check to them. So that could be a thing that you have to explain, but you need to explain it to them, because the last thing you want is, well, I didn't know this was going to happen. Oh, but you can say, I explained it to you in the beginning. Does the insurance company pay you? Nope. We are strictly paid by the clients. The clients pay us and no one else pays us. As soon as the client receives a check, before I sign off the check to them, I do like to receive my fee before I give them my endorsed check. I don't know if that makes sense. Feel free to ask me some questions later on. What are my out-of-pocket fees? I always tell them, because it is on the contract, immediate repairs. Immediate repairs to mitigate is always something that's paid for by the client beforehand. So that expert documentation that you do need to let them know that will have to be paid by them out of pocket. The plumbing repair, the roofing repair, whatever it is, any little repair, which is usually not a lot of money, needs to be paid out by the client. What if the insurance company doesn't pay anything? It's very unlikely. If you do not get paid, we do not get paid. That's it. Very simple. Can I make all of the repairs in the meantime? If possible, it's better to wait until the claims process is over. Minor repairs are okay, but if you're claiming new flooring and they replace all of their flooring before you get to negotiate, they're only going to basically pay exactly what was spent, which doesn't really give you any room to negotiate. And how much will I get paid? That's a great question, right? I don't like to really say too much. They do tend to ask me, well, what do you think? What do you think we can get? Again, low expectations. I'm like, 10, 15,000, maybe if we're lucky. I don't know, depending on the size of the claim. So if you try these steps, hopefully that was good. You guys let me know the results. And that's pretty much all I got. It's time for a little Q&A. So I don't know how we're going to do this. So let's see if I can go to let me get this out of here. All right, give me a second if I can try to do this really quick. All right, what's up, my people? All right, so let's see if we got some. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm like out of breath. If you don't mind, I'm gonna take a little water. Ooh, I tried to answer some of your questions down by there. We put the button under the video where you can download this presentation. That's true. So we're going to provide you guys, before you give me any kind of questions, I guess, I'm going to see what I can do. But we're going to try to provide you with a couple different things. One thing, I'm going to give you my contract without my company name and all the information. But it'll be just sort of like a breakdown of my contract. If you guys work for a company already, it might not be very useful to you, but it's good. It's good to know how the contract reads. Something I should have mentioned, it's good to know how the contract reads so that you could explain the contract to the client. So I'll give you the template of what we have. The other thing I'm going to give you the template to my 30-second pitch, my 30-second elevator pitch. So that's kind of cool. And a video of me actually doing it with a little timer on the side of 30 seconds. So you'll get the 30-second elevator pitch. And then I'm also going to give you a checklist of just sort of what we went through to make sure that you're getting all your networking, making sure that you're checking everything off, to making sure that you're doing all the one-to-ones, and you're meeting the people and you're making the phone calls. Guys, think about it. Now is actually the best time to let people know what you're doing. It is difficult to get those referrals right now because you're just starting out. But now's the time for you to spread the word. Now's the time everybody's sitting on their ass at home, not really doing much, waiting to have a conversation with somebody. Everybody's having video chats with people now. Now's the time you could contact people that you haven't talked to in years. Okay, reach out to them, have a conversation with them, let them know what you do. Not only may they find somebody who's got water damage or has filed a claim within the last 3 years, but maybe they know a plumber, maybe they know a GC, maybe they know a roofer that they could introduce you to. Let's get that ball rolling, get some claims in, and I'll be happy to help with whatever you guys need. Right, I put here, we're preparing more of this, by the way. We're going to be doing this on a monthly basis. So just to let you know, I want you guys to, if you guys could share this, that'd be fantastic. I would really appreciate it. That would be awesome. Share this. You guys, most of you probably know that I'm on LinkedIn, and we are on Facebook, and we are on, on YouTube, and just share as much as possible. I got a question here. What should be our approach looking for new clients and claims during lockdown? Yeah, so that's what I said. Making sure right now what your approach should be is just calling those people that you haven't talked to in a while. reach out to them. Okay. You might be afraid to reach out to some of those ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends, but just people that you haven't talked to in a long time. Reach out to them, give them a call. You'll be surprised. They'll be happy to hear from you. It seems like most of the prime vendors, HVAC, plumbers, remediation, general contractors, already have established PA relationships. How can we break into that, into what is the secret sauce to being their first choice as a PA? Well, a lot of them don't. A lot of them don't have PA relationships. Some of them do, but some of them don't. So, it doesn't mean that you can't meet with them, but at least you could, meet with any GC that you can. Whether they have a relationship with a PA or not, it's better to just meet as many people as possible. How are you going to share your information? You're going to see it all over. You're going to see it on Facebook. You're going to see it on social media all over. And we'll also send you an email with this link so that you guys can share, which would be fantastic. Or if you follow the Commercial Claims Advocate page on Facebook, you could just share it right from there. I'm just greatly appreciative. Another YouTube video will be coming out next Wednesday. So remember, we were doing those weekly. We're going to be doing those monthly now. And the website kicking off in 2 weeks. That's going to be super exciting. We're very excited about that as well. The goal here is to basically have one new thing every month. So what we're going to be doing, basically, the idea is we're going to be coming out with a blog post every month, with a podcast every month, with a webinar every month, and with a YouTube video every month. So every week you'll have something new. The podcast is going to be basically interviews. So that should be pretty exciting. My goal with the podcast is just to interview somebody else in the industry, maybe some people like you here in the I would love to interview even one of you newbies who are just starting out and you've got questions and what your feelings are like as you're starting out. Question from Justin. Do we get paid if the property is a total loss? Yeah, you do. You do get paid if the property is a total loss. Of course, you still get your percentage. You might even have to put an estimate together in order to do that. But I know from my experience with Hurricane Michael, yes, there was a couple total losses there that I helped them throughout the process. They didn't want to pay a total loss at first, but we were able to negotiate on their behalf and get them that total loss that they needed. Let's see here. Do we have any questions? Oh, look at that. We got some questions here. Well, first, SAS, any recommendations where to learn Xactimate? You're going to have to, I took an Xactimate course a long time ago. You're going to have to see if you could find one. But honestly, you learn how to scope first. Okay. And if you could just sit side by side and just entering in all those line items into the Xactimate, you might not need to pay for one of those courses. If you could just sit side by side with somebody. Let me see if I could. How could we argue with an insurance company that wants to flat out deny claim because their engineer claims wear and tear? If you're not able to hire an engineer yourself, so that question was from Juan Caceres. If you're not able to hire an engineer yourself, which I know they could be very expensive, that could help prove your point that you're trying to say it's not wear and tear, then you might have to end up in litigation. Funny thing about litigation, guys, is that if it doesn't end up in litigation and the claim does settle, the attorney, if they're able to settle, Dahlia, I need to hold on with some of these questions one at a time. If the claim does settle, then what was I going to say? I forgot. I lost my train of thought. The insurance company will pay for all those attorney fees and costs, including the engineer. So if you're going to have to hire your engineer to combat their report, and if you're unable to do that, you'd probably have to file a lawsuit. Who pays for the expert inspections and documentation up front? Dina, like I said, that is the homeowner usually has to pay for that. If it's a plumbing repair, honestly, it's not going to cost more than $75 to $150. If it's a roofing repair, it's going to be about the same. We have drain line claims here. You have to run a camera. Usually running a camera is going to be like $250 to $300. So, how do you respond when an insurer responds to your estimate with, we stand by our own findings? Dispute, you file an appraisal. Okay, you just say, that's fine. That's okay. If that's what you think, then please send over the undisputed amount and we'll go ahead and file a dispute. And if you're not able to get anywhere in the dispute process, then you might have to file a lawsuit. Or in states that you can't just file a lawsuit like that, you're going to have to gather the expert documentation. You're going to have to find evidence. You're going to have to find evidence that proves and backs your claim as to why you're claiming this certain damage. If the more evidence that you show, the faster and the more your claim will get paid. That's why it's so important to get that expert documentation. How do you make certain the client pays you after you've received a settlement check from the insurer? How does this differ where there is mortgage company name? All right, this is from SAS. So this is an interesting one, right? This is what I was trying to say before. When the check is made out to you and to the client, you need to go and you have to do what's called a bank guaranteed, certified guaranteed signature. I can't remember right now for some reason. Signature guarantee, and you have to hand it to the client. I do not, however, leave that house until the client gets my check and I get my fee. So let's say with the check comes to our office. I'll go straight to the bank. I'll get a signature guarantee. I will bring it to the client. I will let them know up front, I'm bringing you this check. Please have a check for my fee. And when they ask, well, I haven't deposited it yet, you just say that it's just something that you need to have so that you don't, number one, have to make the second trip. Number two, you're not going to deposit it because frankly, you're not going to deposit a bounce check anyway. And number three, you just need to have it because when you're giving out an endorsed check, that's it. You've lost sort of all of your right to that check. So do not leave after you give them their check with your endorsement on it without your fee. The mortgage company named the check. I wait with the mortgage company, SAS. It sucks, but I do try to wait as long as possible. Have you found that money spent on Google ads or Facebook ads show enough on a return? No, Jeff, I don't think so. I think it's a waste of money, which was the point of sort of this webinar, is to just try to basically provide you as much information so you don't have to spend money. And spending money on something like BNI, that's not necessarily advertising. That's just getting inside a group of people, getting into a group of people that's going to refer you business. So Google ads or Facebook, I think it's a waste of time. I think it's a waste of money. When is a good time to do a CRN? When you're just at a dispute, Stephanie. I try to avoid sort of the CRNs because that's sort of now involving the attorney and everything, but that's okay too. A lot of times they respond to it's a CRN, guys, is known as a civil remedy notice, and sometimes it's sent when you come to an impasse. And sometimes I know, Stephanie, you send that CRN and they resolve it pretty quickly. So I'd say a good time to send a CRN is if they're just not responding, if it's been weeks since they've responded to one or two of your emails. That might be a good time. If they've just severely underpaid and you don't want to go through the appraisal process, that might be a good time. But that's why the appraisal process is there. If they're just showing any kind of bad faith or anything like that, that might be a good time. Let's see. There's a lot of questions coming in. SAS, ever argued against high nailing improper installation on a roof claim? Honestly, SAS, I'm not a roof expert. Okay. I know there's a lot of people on the Facebook groups that talk about all these specific things. I would prefer to hire an expert on that because I will tell you, if an adjuster tells me that that's the reason for the improper installation on a roof, the first thing I'm going to tell that adjuster is, you're not a roofer. You're an adjuster. So if you have anything like that where it gets a little bit detailed like that, improper nailing, high nailing, anything like that, get a roofer out there, have them put it on paper. And it's going to look a lot better from a certified roofer. What do we do, Juan, with insurance companies that do not have appraisal? What I like to do is I like to go to mediation first. Okay. Well, here's what I do. I tell the client, Juan, right off the bat, look, we can go to mediation or we can go straight to litigation. What is the problem with mediation, guys? The problem with mediation is that more often than not, it's a waste of time. If it's just a dispute about the amount, you have to tell the client right up front, they're not going to budge much more than what they've already paid. Number two, if it's a straight up denial and they want to mediate, that's just almost a waste of time. You're not going to get anywhere. They're not going to move from their position. But if the client wants to do that, you let them know, look, we could go to mediation, but it's going to take about a month or two to end up in mediation, and we may not resolve anything and end up in litigation anyway. Do you want to go for that with the chance of going to litigation again, or do you want to just go straight to litigation? You can give them the option. I hope that answers your question. Stephanie, how do you explain to a client items on the estimate and still refuse items to be on it? How do you explain to a client items on the estimate and still refuse items to be on it? I don't really understand. If you could be a little bit clear. Richard, a CRN is a civil remedy notice. It's basically a notice that's sent by an attorney, basically letting them know of some kind of bad faith that has been done on the claim, and for them to basically sort of get their act together. I am not a lawyer. Okay, we have to be careful when we say these things and define these things. Richard, that is a much better question for an attorney, which I guarantee I will have an attorney on one of my podcasts and interview them, and we can get that question answered much better and much more in detail. Per Gabriel, any tools? Feel free to answer as much as you can. All right. Per Gabriel, any tools or apps that you could recommend for scoping? Yeah. So I use them. I use this guy right here to do all my measuring. Let me see if we got it. Yeah. All right. It's a Bosch. Professional GLM 30. It's pretty cool. Look, let's see if we can get it. right on the camera. It's a laser pointer. Another thing I use sometimes, so you could find this on Amazon. I don't know if Dahlia or Vince there, Milan, if you could leave a link. I do have a direct link. Oh, I am an affiliate with this laser right here. If you buy off the link, it helps our business here. Basically, it just measures the whole house, and it's a lot easier than measuring tape. What else do I use? I use SimSol for estimates. I have an estimator now that helps me. What else do I use? Water moisture detectors are really good. There's like a FLIR camera that you could use that you could attach. It's called FLIR, F-L-I-R. You could attach it onto your phone and you could just go right to where the water damage is. You could prove it. Also, maybe some water moisture detections are good. Those are good stuff. What is your best practice if the PA fee is greater than what the PH has available? What is your best practice if the PA fee is greater than what the policyholder has available and the claim is monitored by a lender? You're going to have to be more specific, Brian. Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to need to be a little bit more specific with that one. Oh, thank you for putting that up there. So if you click on that link there in the chat, that Bosch laser measure, that'll take you directly to it. If you purchase off that link, you're helping us all. It's the same price. It's not anymore. Do we get paid if the property is a total loss? Yes, you do. How often do homeowners choose to do it themselves? Oh, all the time. Once the once the insurance company pays, it's up to the homeowner to do whatever they want with that money. Obviously, it's the mortgage company, though, that wants to make sure that they did the work. So they could do it themselves. They don't have to hire a GC or hire anything like that. They may have to if it's a tough mortgage company, but more often than not, they could get anybody they want to do the repairs. They may have to prove it to the mortgage company that the repairs were done, but they can get whomever they want and they could pay however much they want. How to handle a third-party layout? I don't know what that is, Leo. How would you rate your confidence in the appraisal process for the chance of being done right? It gives me pause to lose control of the process, but I have heard both good and bad from appraisals. Brian, appraisals are a risk. You go to appraisal and that's pretty much it. You're in it. You're in it to win it. So make sure you have a good list of umpires, because if you and the appraiser cannot agree, you have got to make sure that you are meeting out there with an umpire that's going to back up your argument. So make sure you have a good argument and make sure you have an umpire that's going to be fair. I have lost before. It's happened once and it sucked. So just the appraisal process could be a little bit intimidating. Honestly, it took me a few years to feel pretty confident about it. So just keep practicing. I would just go for it. And again, low expectations to the client. What's a good closing rate for homes visited? I used to always say 50%, but I think it's a little bit higher now. I'd say it's at about 75%. So a lot of times it's not just closing the claim. And I think you mean by signing the contract, right? B-Towns, I hope. It's not just, what was I going to say? Sometimes the claim is just not good. Sometimes you go to a claim and there's just not that much damage. Or it's something that's been happening forever and you're like, I can't sign this claim. So, it's sometimes it's just not worth it to the client and you end up not signing it. Juan, what do we do with the insurance company that do not have appraisal, litigation, mediation? And EUO, LUYO is an examination under oath. I would suggest that you get an attorney if an EUO is requested. Can you do a walkthrough line by line of a proof of loss? That would have to be on another one, John. I don't know if I have too much time for that right now, the proof of loss. If you want, send me a message and I can help you with it, John. Great info. Thank you. Thank you, Justin. Does plumbing and professionals expense are reimbursed by the insurance company? So that's a tricky one, right? So I don't like to put too much into the client, letting them know that they'll reimburse for it all. So the idea is that when there's a plumbing invoice, right, and there's a repair done, the insurance company is supposed to pay for for labor and not material. But most of the bill is going to be labor. So if it's like a big deal having to break some floor to get into the supply line, to replace the supply line, or to make the repair, and let's say it's a $500 bill, $400 of that is going to be towards labor. So make sure that when you do, so this is a good question, Gabriel, does plumbing and professional expenses are reimbursed? Make sure that when you do get an invoice from a plumber or from a roofer or something like that, that they separate the material and labor, because you could definitely negotiate that labor. Now they're trying, a lot of the insurance companies, they've changed the policy to say that they only charge for access. One thing or the other, just tell the expert to separate access too. Which insurance agreed to go to appraisal and which not? I mean, I don't know, Luyo. I don't know the exact ones. I couldn't tell you. I don't remember which ones don't and which ones do. Now I've noticed that they've been accepting a lot more. Brian, if the PA fee is more than the policyholder has in their account and the lender is monitoring the claim, funds are not released until the work is completed. Right, Brian. You have to try your best to try to convince the client that if so Brian asked a good question. When the mortgage company is holding the check, the worst case scenario is they release it in thirds, that they don't release all the check, or they only release a portion of it at a time. You have to try to convince the client to pay you on the first portion. But if you can, I don't know, just try to level with the client, let them know, hey, my work is done. You're dealing with the mortgage company. Please try to do what you can to pay my fee. SAS, are we obligated to get a client insured approval on an appraisal before we sign off on the award? Yeah, I always do. SAS. SAS is asking if get an approval from the insured. Listen, at the end of the day, remember, your client is the insured. Any kind of negotiating that you do, you need to run it by the client. You need to let them know, here's where we're at and here's my feeling on it, because you are the expert. So are you, how are you? Do you think you're going to get more? Do you think you're going to get less? They're going to ask you all these questions, but yeah, run it by the client. I've had claims where they didn't settle for what I wanted to, but just, I don't know, based on the scenario of the claim, I told the client, I said, look, we can go to the umpire, but we ain't going to get much more, and it's going to cost you $1,200 more. Or they're at this number right now. There's no point in going to appraisal. Let's just sign the release and let's just move on. And that's it. They take your advice, but you have to give them your expert advice. How do you release yourself from a claim after you get a settlement? Well, I do have a document that I could provide you. It is a release. It's not something that you want to submit too much, but if for some reason you have a client that's just not gelling well and it's become a real pain, you could send them a release that basically releases you from the claim. Just know that once you send that, any further payment that's made on that claim is not going to be to you. Is litigation cost taken out of policyholders? Is litigation cost taken out of policyholder claim or from insurance company? 20% and then 30% for attorney. It's not something I get involved in a lot, Dana. The percentages of the attorney. I just know that the attorney fees are paid for by the insurance company, and I leave it to the attorney and to the insurance company attorneys to settle their fees. So just know when I talk to a client and we're going to go to litigation, I tell the client that, look, the only person you ever have to pay is me. The attorney fees and costs, those are going to be negotiated separately based on the attorney, or based on whatever it is that they come up with. Hold on a second. Whoa. What do you recommend? What did I just do here? Sorry, guys. What do you recommend using in terms of restoration company? The insured complains they are too expensive. Should I either take a good one versus a cheaper one? I don't know, Joel. They're always complaining that they're too expensive. So it's good luck finding one that's not too expensive. You just have to find somebody that you can trust, somebody that's good, somebody that's honest, somebody that's not taking advantage, I guess. You could see if it's a small loss and there's like 12 machines on there, it might not be a good company to work with. But I don't know. Does that make sense? Let's see here. Carlos, are there any classes or courses that can help us learn to scoop? I don't know what scoop is. Jeff, it is a good idea to get all the mortgage company details in the beginning to find out what their equity is. And also, that's a good idea. That's true. Some owners pay in third. Are there any classes that can help us learn to scope? Carlos, your best bet is to either call me and ask me. I'll help you with some of the basics. I did make a video on it on the YouTube channel. Dahlia, if you could find that, there is a video about how to scope. It's like just a bare bones breakdown of the basics of how to scope. That might get you started. Contractor's mortgage. Javier, mortgage endorsement can get complicated at times, which means that it may take away longer for us to get paid. Yeah. Contractor estimates, mortgage inspections, anything you recommend during that process to speed things up? What is your experience when dealing with that? You could try to provide an invoice, Javier. Try to provide an invoice of how much it costs exactly for your services. And again, you have to develop a good relationship with the client, a positive one that will hopefully get you paid. Remember, you're always paid by the client no matter what. Luyo, if they send you the denial letter, you can still negotiate and call the DA? Yeah, you could try, but you better provide some evidence. It's going to backtrack them from that denial. It's going to have to change their minds. You're going to have to provide them with some evidence. If it's a denial, chances are you're going to litigation. All right, guys. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any more questions, please, I'm guessing maybe you could send more questions here, or you could, oh, now the questions are coming in again. Here's what we'll do. I'm going to answer. We're going to do 4 more minutes. We're going to go to 12:15, and then that's it. I'll answer these 2 questions. But if you have any more questions, if you could please send them to me on Instagram, send them to me on Facebook, send them to me on LinkedIn. You could also email me, and I'm pretty sure you could also send them here on Crowdcast as well. Let's go. Just do 2 more questions. Last 2. Mortgage endorsements can. Oh no, I already did that one. All right. Last question, John. Is it better to specialize in particular claims like fire or water than to be all over the place? No way, John. Be all over the place, baby. I mean, that's how you're going to grow your business. You start specializing too much, then you're going to find yourself out of work, in my opinion. So, fires are great. If you get a fire, that's great. And if you get a nice size water damage claim, that's great too. It depends. If you work for a company that's just feeding you work, and maybe they're such a big company that they have separate departments, sure. Me, I'm a one-man show. It's me and 2 other guys. That's all we have. We're 3 people, 3 partners in one company. And we basically all work for each other. So email is vince@commercialclaimsadvocate. You could send me that there. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I want to take a picture of this because this is kind of cool. So, all right, everybody smile. I tried to take a video, but so we got a little bit of video. How about that? All right, pretty cool. So, guys, thank you so much. Thank you. 73 people we've got on here watching. That is amazing for our first webinar. Super excited. Like I said, next week we're going to have the YouTube video come out, the monthly one. Thank you, Brooke. I really appreciate that. We're going to have the week after, we're going to have our first blog, and we're going to premiere the website. So that's coming in 2 weeks. And the week after that, we're doing the premiere of the Claims Game podcast. So that's going to be really fun too. Don't know who my first interview is going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be somebody awesome. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We're logging out. We're out of here. Dahlia, thank you for your help so much. Milan is on here too. He's acting as me here. Thank you very much. And everybody, thank you all for watching. Love you guys. Have a great day and stay safe and don't get sick, please.